What is GDP? Golden Retriever loves apples. Golden Retriever's neighborhood also loves apples. Every dog makes apples, sells apples, or buys apples. Some dogs grow apples in their backyards. Other dogs make apple juice. Some dogs sell apple pies. All these apple activities together make up something called GDP. GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product. Big words. Golden Retriever knows. But Golden Retriever will explain. GDP is basically all the apple stuff that happens in Golden Retriever's neighborhood in 1 year. Every apple grown, every apple sold, every apple service provided. It all gets added up into one big number. Why does GDP matter? When lots of apple activities happen in the neighborhood, dogs have jobs. Dogs earn treats. Dogs can buy more apples. Life is good. When not many apple activities happen, dogs lose jobs. Dogs have fewer treats. Dogs buy fewer apples. Life is rough. GDP tells us if the neighborhood is doing well or not. Big GDP number means neighborhood is thriving. Small GDP number means neighborhood needs help. Golden Retriever thinks this is pretty important stuff. You know what? Golden Retriever is wagging his tail because you're still here learning about apples and economics. Most humans click away by now, but you're different. You're special. Hit that subscribe button if you want Golden Retriever to explain more confusing human stuff with simple dog logic. And tell Golden Retriever in the comments, what other big scary topics should Golden Retriever tackle next? How is GDP calculated? Golden Retriever learned there are different ways to count all the apples. The first way is called the expenditure approach. Fancy name, simple idea. Golden Retriever adds up everything dogs spend money on. Dogs buy apples from grocery stores. Dogs buy apple services like apple grooming or apple delivery. Dogs invest in apple businesses. Even the neighborhood government buys apples for public apple parks. All this spending gets added together, the three main spending categories. Consumer spending is when regular dogs buy apples for themselves. This is Golden Retriever buying apples at the store. Business investment is when companies spend money to make more apples later, like buying new apple trees or apple-making machines. Government spending is when the dog government buys apples for everyone to share. There's also something called net exports. If Golden Retriever's neighborhood sells apples to other neighborhoods, that's good for GDP. If Golden Retriever's neighborhood buys apples from other neighborhoods, that's less good for GDP. Golden Retriever's brain is getting tired from all this math, but Golden Retriever hopes you're learning something new. Listen, Golden Retriever sees you're still watching, and that makes Golden Retriever's tail wag uncontrollably. You're clearly someone who cares about understanding the world better. Smash that subscribe button and become part of Golden Retriever's pack. Drop a comment below suggesting what confusing topic Golden Retriever should simplify next. Golden Retriever reads every single comment, and your ideas might become the next video. Real GDP versus nominal GDP. Golden Retriever needs to explain something important. There are actually two types of GDP measurements: nominal GDP and real GDP. Golden Retriever knows these sound scary, but they're not. Nominal GDP counts all the apples at today's apple prices. If apples cost more this year than last year, nominal GDP goes up, even if the same number of apples were made. That's not very helpful for knowing if more apple stuff actually happened. Real GDP is smarter. Real GDP adjusts for changing apple prices. It asks the question, if apple prices stayed the same as some base year, how much apple activity really happened? This gives Golden Retriever a better picture of whether the neighborhood actually produced more apples or just charged more for the same apples. Why the difference matters. When Golden Retriever hears that GDP went up, Golden Retriever needs to know which GDP. If only nominal GDP went up because of higher prices, that's called inflation. Dogs aren't actually making more apples. They're just charging more treats per apple. If real GDP went up, that means dogs actually made more apple stuff, more apple pies, more apple juice, more apple services. The neighborhood economy actually grew. Golden Retriever prefers real GDP for measuring true economic health. GDP per capita. Golden Retriever realized something important. A big neighborhood with lots of dogs might have high GDP just because there are many dogs making apples. But what if each individual dog is still poor? That's why smart dogs invented GDP per capita. Per capita means per dog. GDP per capita divides total GDP by the number of dogs in the neighborhood. This tells Golden Retriever how much apple production there is for each dog on average. Comparing neighborhoods. Two neighborhoods might have the same total GDP, but if one neighborhood has twice as many dogs, then each dog in that neighborhood has half as much apple production to share. GDP per capita reveals which neighborhood's dogs are actually better off. Golden Retriever thinks this is like dividing a pizza. A big pizza shared among two dogs gives each dog more pizza than the same big pizza shared among 8 dogs. Same pizza size. Different amounts per dog. Limitations of GDP per capita. But Golden Retriever must warn you. GDP per capita is just an average. Some dogs in the neighborhood might have access to tons of apples, while other dogs have very few. GDP per capita doesn't show this inequality. It just shows the mathematical average apple production per dog. What GDP doesn't measure. Golden Retriever has learned that GDP isn't perfect. GDP only counts apple activities that involve money-changing paws. If Golden Retriever's neighbor grows apples in their backyard and gives them away for free, GDP doesn't count those apples, even though they're still valuable apples. GDP also doesn't measure happiness. A neighborhood could have high GDP but stressed, overworked dogs. Another neighborhood could have lower GDP but happier, more relaxed dogs spending time playing fetch instead of making apples all day. Environmental costs. GDP doesn't subtract environmental damage. If apple factories pollute the neighborhood's water while making lots of apples, GDP only counts the apple production. It ignores the dirty water that makes dogs sick. Golden Retriever thinks this is a pretty big oversight. The bottom line. Despite these limitations, GDP remains the most important way economists measure how well an economy is doing. It's not perfect, but it's the best tool dogs have invented so far for comparing economic performance across neighborhoods and time periods. Golden Retriever hopes this helped you understand GDP better. Economics is just dogs making decisions about apples and treats. When you think about it that way, it's not so scary after all. Thanks for sticking with Golden Retriever through all this apple economics. Remember, knowledge is like a tennis ball. It's more fun when you chase it together.